Of Martin Luther King's birthday. Who was this man? Why is there a national holiday in his honor? What did he do? And under what circumstances did he do it? And why should we be remembering his birthday by a national holiday? My guest tonight is Jesse Varner, the postmaster at Park City. He is probably better known to you for his various roles and various plays at the Horse Cave Theater. Jesse, it's an honor to have you on the program tonight.
Thank you, sir.
We will discuss Martin Luther King, his background and so forth, and probably some current matters also before this is over.
All right.
Who was Martin Luther King?
Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister out of Atlanta, Georgia. He started out as a preacher, as do most preachers, at their church, preaching good, preaching about don't do evil for evil. However, in the time frame that he came about, as you know as well as I do, it was not a good time for Southern black people, nor was it a good time in this country for the racist period. But Martin Luther King, if I may digress a minute, as I tell a lot of times when I go to speak to school children, heroes are not born. There are people that happen to be in the right place at the right time. You say, well, how is this? Martin Luther King was talking about don't do evil for evil. Martin Luther King was talking about that he felt that not only should the barriers of race be broken down in this country, but the barriers of inequality of people worldwide should be broken down. And this is the message that caught on to various other factions of the governmental groups that began to listen to him. As you know, at the time, in the 60s, we had President Kennedy and his brother, and as Robert Kennedy became Attorney General, there was a lot of push to unite the whole country because there was a lot of disparity. But you had, ironically, you had three different factions. You had the KKK, which I don't need to elaborate about, as a very violent group. You had the Black Panthers, which I do not wish to elaborate about, was a very violent group. And then you had Martin Luther King. Now, while the two groups, the KKK and the Panthers, were talking separatism, Martin Luther King was talking togetherism. He said that he felt that if you were born on this soil and I was born on this soil, that there must be a reason that we should get along together. And basically this is what he was about.
I believe that his father was also a minister.
Yes. And so was his brother.
And so was his brother. And where did he go to college?
His father?
No, Martin Luther King Jr.
I'm not quite sure. You have to help me on that.
Moorhome, I think, or some.
Yes.
And
now one of his brothers preached in Louisville, 22nd and Walnut.
A little bit about your background before we go on. Where were you born?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I was born on February 4th, 1949. I'm the oldest of 10 kids. My background is really interesting.
That's why I want you to tell about it.
I grew up on welfare. I lived in a foster home for 8 years. I left school at 17 years old. I went in the military. I did 6.5 years in the Army. I went to Vietnam, and I come back. My reason for volunteering to go in the Army at 17 was because at 17 years old, we still were in a situation where that for a young black man, there wasn't a whole lot I could do without an education, Mr. Barrickman. You know that yourself. There was only one of two places for me, hell or jail, and I didn't want to go to either one. I knew that I needed an education. I knew that I needed a job skill. And at that time, Vietnam was quite heavy, so I knew that I would probably be drafted. So I went in. As I was telling you earlier, to digress a moment, I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a little boy. Inspired by Perry Mason, I thought that this was a great profession. It's something I wanted to do. I only wanted to go to two schools in my life. I wanted to go to Male High School and University of Louisville. As I began to grow up, and life was pretty rough at the time. Like I said, being the oldest of 10 kids and on welfare, and in the foster home, and then leaving the foster home, coming home to my mother when I was 10, things didn't get much better. I worked pretty much my school career, okay? So by the time I got to be 16 years old, we had a fire one year that burned off the whole back of our house. And I missed 58 days of school when I was in Mayo. Well, when I got ready to go back to school to take my finals, they wouldn't let me take them. They said I'd missed too much school. They told Mom that I could come back to Mayo next year. Well, they wouldn't let me back in. So they said I had to go to Shawnee. Well, I hated Shawnee. If you've ever been to wanting to go to one school, you can respect that. It wasn't that I didn't like Shawnee as a school. That was not where I wanted to go. First 6 weeks, I missed 15 days and was tardy 21. They kicked me out. So that's when I went in the Army. After coming out of the Army after 6.5 years, coming back from Vietnam, things were pretty rough. I eventually ended up out of the Army. After coming out of the Army, I got bounced around from job to job, place to place, doing different things. But I always kept believing there was a better way to live. And I fought hard. I finally got to go back to school. Took me 5 years to get to at U of L, but I managed to get that. And even after growing up on welfare and being a high school dropout, I now have 2 years of college, a year of technical school, and I'm a manager for one of the world's largest companies. I'm pretty proud of that.
You should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, what do you think Dr. Martin Luther King's life had to do with your being able to do all that?
Well, quite frankly, the job I have now, probably. In some sense of the word, Martin Luther King's movement was able to make it a lot easier for me to be able to attain the job where that someone would actually look at my merit, whereas before, I might not even got my merit looked at. I remember, if I can digress a little bit, I remember when Louisville was integrated.
Well, actually, you have lived in two different
yes.
times.
I lived through segregation, and I lived through desegregation, and I live now, thank God. But I remember William O. Calger was the mayor in Louisville at the time. And there was some issue about people being able to sit down at the table in the Blue Boar. Because as you well know, when I grew up, predominantly blacks worked in the kitchen. Predominantly blacks worked in just about everybody's kitchen. And but they couldn't shop. They couldn't come in the stores in the front door. They couldn't shop up and down 4th Street. Well, there was a march in Louisville, and somebody hurled a brick and hit a black girl in the head, and she was injured pretty bad. And Mayor Calgary said that we're not going to tear up my city. They're good enough to cook in these kitchens. They're good enough to eat at the front table. And that's how integration came to Louisville. When I went to junior high school, I was in probably about maybe the first or second class to be integrated at Western Junior High School. And then I went on from there. But it was a strange time, because just before integration, we were told as black people that we were going to be forced to do this, forced to do that, and that we wouldn't be able to do this, that, and the other because of our race. But then after integration, there was a whole together different situation. I'm sure that I'm not the only one that can tell these stories, but some of the problems I had in junior high school and high school were not with members of the opposite race, but they were my own race, unfortunately.
Isn't that still true?
In some cases, yes. Yes, a lot of cases. I believe then, at the onset of integration, I don't believe white people were so inapt to bother black people at the time because it was new, okay? And everybody was watching everybody to get a posture on what you were going to do. But black people know each other. Black people been around each other all their lives, so they were more apt to play tricks on you, because if you'll notice, even today, if you go somewhere, you'll see all the black people will sit over here, all the white people will sit over here. Even in men and women, they will separate. Even with professions, they will separate. If the problem of race was ended with the Emancipation Proclamation, this would have eliminated, this would not have happened a long time ago. If it was ended when Martin Luther King got the Nobel Peace Prize for all of his efforts, then we wouldn't have this now. When you have people that sit up and tell you that we don't have a race problem, they have glasses on. And I don't mean clear-cut ones either, because we're having a problem right here in Louisville. And I'm sure that's one of the problems that you were talking about. We'll discuss a little bit later. But neither you nor I was there. But the mere fact that it poses a problem seems to state one very clear fact: that we have not come as far in race relations as we say we have.
In other words, we have not, as of yet, attained Martin Luther King's dream.
No, we haven't.
Did you hear that speech by any chance?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I heard that speech in person, fortunately. Not in person there, but I heard it by television. And I've heard it quite a few other times. And that is one of the most riveting parts of conversation, or words uttered, that I live by. That I have a dream that someday that a man will not be judged by the color of his skin, but by the attributes and the talents by which he presents. And that's always been a dream of mine. No, I'm not Martin Luther King, by no means. But like I said, when I was little, I lived in a foster home. I grew up on welfare. I always believed there was a better way to live. Obviously there is. I've been working, next month I'll be 55. I've been working 41 years of my life. I've only been unemployed 3 weeks. I've never drawn a penny of unemployment. I've only been fired from one job when I was in high school for being late. And I've only been turned down from one job because I got in a fight and I forgot to put it on my application. In 41 years, I'm pretty proud of that. The world doesn't owe me anything except a chance to show what I can do. And it doesn't matter whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're short, tall, fat, skinny, rich or poor. If you take advantage of your opportunities. See, a lot of times, most of us today don't get very far because we sit there hollering about, won't nobody give me a chance. Well, Mr. Barrickman, if I sat here in this chair and never get up to make an effort to go toward that door, am I going to ever get out of this room?
No.
And that's not your fault.
But how many people, and I'm addressing this question not only to blacks but also the whites. How many people have you got today that have that much initiative?
Sad to say, not many. Not many.
It seems to me that, and I'd like your comment about this after I make this statement,
okay.
but it seems to me that you have a large part of your population now, of all classes, that think that they have no responsibility but should be given everything.
I agree. And I fought my generation for that. How so? By respect, you're old enough to be my father in some ways. All right?
Right.
Now, my generation, and I have to equate this to black, my generation, my mom had a 6th grade education. Mom preached nothing but education. My mom said, you will not get out of poverty, you will not get out of this neighborhood, you will not get anywhere in life unless you have a college education. She didn't say high school, she said college. Period. There was no ifs, ands, or buts my entire life. It was ingrained in my head, get a college education. All right? Now, even though I didn't get a college education, what was the first thing my generation, your kids and I, what was the first thing we said? We didn't have a whole lot of things when we were growing up. So when we became parents, what's the first thing we said? I'm going to give my kid better than what I had.
You've just put your finger on one of the big problems in this country.
Now.
And it's my generation that has caused most of it.
Okay. Your generation? How
yes.
so?
Just for the reason that you said. We came back from service and so forth.
Right.
We had been through the Depression.
Yes.
And, of course, the Depression affected some people worse than others, but nobody escaped it.
No, no.
Nobody. We've been through that and been deprived of things that we would like to have had and so forth, some worse than others. But at any rate, we came back, and as you just said, we decided we was going to give our children everything that we didn't have.
Now.
And that was a mistake.
Big time.
Big time mistake.
I concur with that wholeheartedly. Because now, as you alluded to a few minutes ago, the generation that is coming up behind us, where's mine? Where's mine? You owe me. Everything's a birthright, and it's not a birthright. The only thing that's a birthright to any human being upon the face of this earth, and I tell my children all the time, as a parent, I'm not your buddy, I'm not your friend, I'm not your pal. My job is to make sure that you grow up to be a wholesome, healthy, productive citizen. The only thing that's a birthright is your ability to help maintain the balance of humanity And your legacy is what you leave to the generations behind. And it doesn't matter whether you are able to be a rocket scientist or a janitor. And this was the thing that Martin Luther King was trying to get across. It doesn't matter whether you are a doctor or a janitor. The legacy you leave behind is your work, the effort that you put into it. If a man tells you to sweep this floor, don't make him have to come back and tell you a second time. Don't make him have to come behind you and do it. Do it to the point that that man knows that when he tells Barrickman to sweep the floor, it's swept. When he tells Barrickman to go paint the floor, paint the wall, it's painted. You know, it's an old saying that we grew up with. Our work is our signature.
Unfortunately, I think that one of the basic problems that we have today is that the younger generation are not teaching what your mother taught you.
Right.
And they are not disciplining the children.
No, they're not.
And they're leaving it to the schools and the churches to do what they are supposed to do and don't do.
It's a very sad fact, but yes, it is.
And King was by his life and his example and what he did was the antithesis of this.
Okay.
And his parents, I am sure, and what I've read about it and so forth, they demanded that he do that he go to school and that he get an education and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it shows, as you have said, it's not a matter of race.
No.
It's a matter of your training, your background, and what is demanded and what discipline you have.
And there's one good, interesting point about this, like you said about Dr. King. King was brought up that way, and he raised his children that way. And it used to be that we could say that John was a bad guy because he had bad parents. He came out of a bad home. We can't say that anymore. Bad home doesn't make it. It doesn't cut it. We got individuals out here that come out of homes that are very prosperous, very productive. Parents have worked very hard and did the disciplinary thing, and they still turn out to be jackals. Now, why? Some of it is peer pressure. Some of it, yes, a generation of gimme, gimme, gimme. But I see a human animal that has no regard for human life, regardless. And I think media has a little bit to do with that by sensationalizing everything that happens. What was it? Somebody said one time, had there been a television camera when Teddy Roosevelt ran for president, he wouldn't have got elected. Isn't that correct?
Right.
So the other afternoon, I had just come in from work, and they showed the number of TV cameras that was out there outside the courtroom for Michael Jackson. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. You or I, either one, if we were under those circumstances, we wouldn't have that type of sensationalism. And I think that before we can actually realize Dr. King's dream, we have to revert back to human morals. And we've gotten a long ways off from that.
Who's teaching them these days?
Good question. Good question. Children teaching each other? How are they going to teach each other? They don't know.
Well,
And you have, and the funny part, you don't, you know, when I was coming up, at about the time I was 16, 17, there was a big to-do about children having children. Well, there's not really, or is there, that many teenagers. I mean, according to the news the other day, that the teenage pregnancy rate is going down. Women and men are waiting later to have children because of career goals. But I don't see any values. Do you?
No.
So, Mr. King's first thing was that humans should treat each other like they're human. All right? Second of all, that we should live by the biblical word that we preach. Okay? And third of all, that we don't try to belittle somebody else without looking at ourselves first. And yet, in the last 10 to 15 years, I think, and I think you will agree with me, in some parts of our lifestyle, we have deliberately tried to reverse everything that Dr. King has tried to work for.
Well, I think a good example of what you just alluded to, and you alluded to it a moment ago also, is the programs that are on television.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get a program hardly anymore that isn't replete with violence.
Even your games,
Even your games,
your cartoons,
the cartoons.
everything.
You're absolutely right, and they've also, in my humble opinion, gone too far with sexualism.
Oh, definitely.
And I mean,
There's nothing left to the imagination.
You're right. You are so right.
Nothing is left
But
to the
I was
imagination.
amazed that a week or so ago I was watching a commercial, or I happened to see a commercial. I was watching some program. I think it was a news program, but anyhow, commercial came on for some object and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, there was a woman there that was dancing and talking about how good this program was, and had on one of these white, thin, she might as well have been naked out there.
Yeah, she may as well have been nude. And even the products that they're trying to sell nowadays are very sexually oriented. And at what point are we going to say enough is enough? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, do hereby and establish and ordain this Constitution of the United States, yada, 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 the preamble, one nation under God, da, 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 da. Well, they've taken God out of school. Okay, fine. But all men are created equal. Justice is blind. They haven't removed that. Yet, all men are not created equal.
No.
And justice is not blind.
You are so right.
Okay? Now, I'm going to throw a wrinkle in there that I don't believe even Martin Luther King knew about. Had he known about it, he would have found his dream would have been more realized than he knew, but there is one medium that does make it a level playing field. One medium that makes everybody equal. And they're trying to regulate it. And that's the computer. Don't get me wrong. Whether you grew up with one or not is neither here nor there. But now, if I come into your store to buy something, you see me face to face, right?
Right.
You can decide whether you want to sell to me or not sell to me due to race, appearance, my ability to pay, whatever, right?
Right.
Now, if I go on the internet, you don't know whether I'm male, female, black, white. short, tall. You don't even know if I'm an American. The computer has made a level playing field. It has shrunk our world. So you see, the world isn't, whereas you were at the Battle of the Bulge, I believe, correct?
Correct.
And I was in Vietnam. To us, those seem like millions of miles away, right?
Right.
Even the amount of time it took you to get home versus the amount of time it took me to get home. But now, I can communicate with somebody in Vietnam. In fact, the other day I had a computer problem at home, and so I got on the telephone and called my computer manufacturer to get somebody to talk me through this problem. I was having a problem understanding them. Come to find out, I was talking to somebody in Istanbul, Turkey, and they were telling me how to fix my computer in Smith Grove, Kentucky. Now, how much smaller has our world got to get before we realize that we all got to live together?
Well, I agree with you. It certainly equalizes things, but it equalizes bad as well as good.
Oh yeah, concurrently so. The hackers.
And
The bad part about that is anytime you say that a criminal can't do something, he's going to show you can.
well, that's true. That's just like at the end of the war in Europe, within a few days, Eisenhower issued an order that there'd be no association between the Germans and the American soldiers. And before night fell, there was all kinds of association, and there hadn't been any at all before.
Now, it's kind of like, as we used to say, Mama tell us don't touch it. We didn't want to touch what we could. Long as she say don't touch it, that's what we wanted.
That's
Maybe we should use that psychology.
we need to come up with something.
We really do. I really am concerned about mankind from the standpoint that I don't care whether you like me or not. But what I care about is whether we can live in the same neighborhood. What I care about is whether you like yourself. And I think a lot of the problems we have today, this may not make sense to you, but I see people that don't like themselves.
Well, yes.
And so if they don't like themselves, how can they like anybody else?
Oftentimes they don't like themselves for the simple reason they don't have what they want, but they don't realize that they haven't put forth the effort or have the ability to get what they want. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
How do we get society to realize that you put forth an effort to get somewhere? You and I, we put forth the effort to be where we are right here on this spot. You called me and asked me if I would be a guest on the show. I accepted. Now, I had no idea where the electric plant board was, but I found out, and I got here. It didn't take that much effort. So why do people spend a lifetime trying to get out of doing something that takes 5 minutes to get done?
I don't know. We've tried, my wife and I have tried to teach our children that one of the essentials is respect.
Thank you.
You
And
got
that's
to-
what's missing.
You got to have
That's what's
respect
missing.
for your fellow man, and
Yeah.
you got to have respect for yourself too.
Obviously.
And as I have told them and told some other people, it doesn't matter to me whether somebody likes me or not.
No.
But I am concerned whether or not they respect me.
Good point. And that alludes back to our Army days.
Yeah.
They told us we didn't have to like the captain. We had to do what he said. If they put a monkey in there, we didn't have to figure out, understand monkey-nese. We just had to figure out what the monkey was trying to get us to do. And it was because of respect for the rank. It's kind of like a hierarchy or pecking order. And my thing with my kids is I say, well, if children are so smart, why did God make parents stay around 18 years?
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point.
They look at me like I'm nuts, but think about it. The human animal is the only animal that don't let the bird fly when the wings get dry. Snake be that long. His poison is twice as deadly as the mama's. He's on his way. Bird, she comes in, she feeds the bird, till them wings are dry, he flies away. Have you ever had a dog?
Yes.
Now, to better illustrate what I'm talking about, this dog, female dog, has puppies. All right? Now, we come and take them puppies. When they're old enough to wean, we take them across country, cross town, cross wherever. And that puppy is supposed to grow up to be a dog, be loyal to us, and be our only friend. And never think about his family no more. The mama that we took it away from. Okay? But yet we as humans, we hold on to our kids for dear life. At what point are we going to, if we do our job from 0 to 18, okay, then when they get old enough, then they will go on about their way. And they will learn whatever it is that needs to be learned in the world. For example, when we teach, we want our kids to hurry up and walk and talk so we can tell them to shut up and sit down. It's an oxymoron. But we want them to grow up, get an education, and then when they get the education, some of them, if we're lucky enough, that gets an education and are able to go out in the world and try to do the things that you and I have alluded to, some of the things that we were talking about, and to embark upon a path to where they might find some of the avenues that Dr. King was talking about, but still we hold on to them. Okay? Others, I don't know.
As an example of what you're talking about and holding on to them, I have represented various school boards over the years.
Okay.
And when I grew up and so forth, if teacher if I got a spanking or a whipping, I knew when I got home, if my father knew about it, I'd get another one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the point. Nowadays, you let the teacher admonish a student a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
The parents claim that their child can do no wrong. They go to the principal, the teacher, the principal, and end up most of the time with the superintendent.
Yeah, it does.
Complaining.
It does.
And that again is part of the problem, that the children, when they get to be 18 years old and so forth, they're not ready to fly.
No, they're not. I agree.
You know, sometimes I sometimes think that one of the worst things this country's ever done was when it abolished the draft.
So do I. It's funny, but there's two things that I think we did a bad turn on ourselves: the draft and the death penalty. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think anybody's son, and I would not admonish anybody's child to go to war. And I don't believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But even under segregation, now get this, even under segregation, out of the shadows, when there was a fight in school, there was a flat out fight. Mm-hmm. You had a fist fight, whoever won the fight, that was the end of it. It wasn't none of this trying to get back at each other kind of crap, all right? I beat you, you go get your gang, you come back, you beat me, and my gang, you know, I come back and beat you with a bigger gang. This stuff didn't happen. It was whoever won the fight, it was over. And the reason I say during segregation days, because we only had one black high school in Louisville. It's no brainer. Central was the high school. All right, Central got in fights, yeah, with just about every school in town. They're all white schools. But it wasn't no daggone racial incidents. Daggone it, they beat us. They didn't win the fight. All right, it's that simple. Now, the other thing is that, what are we fighting for anyway? Back then, you and I, we knew what we was fighting about. Either I was on your side of town and I didn't belong there, and I got my butt whooped. It was standard procedure. You lived in the East End, you didn't go to the West End. You lived in the West End, you didn't go to the East End. We knew what we were fighting about. Today, what are people fighting about? Why? When a child can shoot their father because they didn't pass the sugar and kill him dead, what does that say about us as a people?
And it's happening more and more.
And you say, how has Martin Luther King helped my generation of people? How has Martin Luther King's dream been realized? Martin Luther King's dream has not been realized by no stretch of the imagination. We haven't even begun to even scratch the surface. It's almost like that every now and then we'll look at it, dust it off, okay? And then when we want to, we sweep it back under the carpet. The fact that they made a holiday out of it, yeah. Okay, we looked at it. Now it's a holiday, okay, fine. We talk about it for about 2-3 days a month, a year, and then we get rid of it. The rest of the year, it's kind of like Christmas anymore. One day, stick a fork in it and it's done. We do not want, the reason that his dream has not been realized, we as a people do not want to look at ourselves. We do not want to look at how ugly we really are. Okay?
Okay.
We would much rather look at the ugliness of other people. It's like when we watch TV. We watch America's Funniest Videos. We laugh at other people's miscomings because we don't want to look at our own self. And until we as a community, we as a state, we as a nation, look at ourselves and say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. First of all, in the black community, I got to look at my community and say, wait a minute. Not all black communities, but some. I got to look at my community and say, wait a minute, what's going on in my community? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why does my community look like this? Why are all the torn down houses in my community? It's not fair. Okay, what can I do about it without pitching a fit, without getting in a fight? We as white people in our communities, wait a minute. What are we doing? What are we telling each other? What are we saying? Do we really think we're that much better than anybody? Why? The point is, whether we want to live together or not is unimportant. We have to live together. We need to live together. We work together. We play together. And in most cases, we fight together. But it's always puzzled me that I have a government that tells me that we have to work together, we have to live together, we have to go to school together, we have to play together. And then those people that make those laws, every Sunday, they all fill up in one spot. Okay? Now, if we have to be together, what'd be the first place we should probably start being together at?
Church.
Sounds pretty daggone good to me. But yet, the only place we are together, and we ain't even together there, is in jail.
No.
We ain't even together in the graveyard. Now, there's not going to be a white heaven and a black heaven, a white hell and a black hell. So, at some point, we as a people need to be able to do like you and I as an individual. I like you because your personality appeals to me. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
That's the only thing. That's all that matters to me. Is that your personality appeals to me. You're a fascinating person to me. I think I can learn something from you. Okay? And I will trust you and believe you and treat you as a man as long as you treat me and regard me as a man. The thing we were talking about earlier about respect.
Yeah.
And not once will race come into it. Now, individualism may come into it. Okay?
Okay.
Age may come into it. Why? Because of the knowledge factor. But until we as a people can see each other as individuals in this country. And let me back up a second. When I say when we see each other as individuals, part of the problem is everybody wants to act like an individual. Me, my, I. No, that's not the kind of individualism I'm talking about. I'm talking about when we can see each other as an individual and appreciate each other for what each other can bring to the relationship. And don't get me wrong, and God, everybody out there paying attention, yes, everybody in the world has relationships. Men have relationships, women have relationships, men and women have relationships. The fact that you meet a person and talk to a person, that is a relationship. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Now, so that's another part of our societal ill. Is because of our lack of education, we don't utilize our language properly. Okay? And so therefore a lot of words get mixed up. But like you and I will have a relationship as long as we respect each other as individuals. That's
Amen.
what I mean by seeing each other as individuals.
That's what I mean by the importance of respect.
Yeah. Same difference.
Same thing.
The same identical thing. And that is a lot of what Martin Luther King was trying to say. And how it's helped me is that I'm able to sit here today and say that. Plain and simple, no more, no less. You know, I know, if this was 1903 and we had TV and the time frame was still the way it was, I wouldn't be sitting here talking. Yes or no?
Well, you wouldn't be. There's no doubt about that.
and
There's absolutely no doubt about that.
And if I was, I'd be giving an opinion that I was given to give.
Yes, that's true too. There's no doubt about that. I believe you said you had children.
Yes.
How old are they?
I have 6, ages 30 to 16. 3 and 3, 3 boys and 3 girls.
how much do they know and about, and how much has the schools and society taught them about Martin Luther King and what he stood for and what his goals were?
Now, good question, Mr. Barrickman. My older two children are my stepchildren. They're 30 and 29. They have a pretty good knowledge of Dr. King and what Dr. King stood for and what have you. My other four children, they are from 24 down to 16. And it's kind of like about Vietnam. They see it as a story. They don't, no matter, and then no matter what we tell them, it's kind of like you trying to tell your grandchildren about World War I or World War II. Again, our generation gap. I was there when Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." I was in Vietnam when Dr. King got killed. I was in junior high school when Kennedy got shot, the president. So these are not things that I heard about. These are things that I have vivid memories. These are things that I feel, okay? But for our children, we can tell them all we want, and sometimes they don't register.
But do we actually tell them?
We talk to them. Good point. We talk to them. Do we tell them? Some of us do. Some of us don't. Do we live it? Do we show them?
That's an excellent remark or excellent statement. That's just like you've got a lot of people that teach the children that they shouldn't drink and so forth, and yet they do.
Well,
And,
tell you
and
something I
there's-
told my wife before I came. I told my wife, I says, I'm a little nervous. She says, why? You ain't never nervous in front of a camera. I said, well, I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, if he asks me, I'll have to be honest, but you haven't asked me, but I'm going to be honest and tell you anyway. I'm prejudiced, but I'm not a racist. Wow, well, how can you be prejudiced and not be a racist? Real simple. If you, as a man, tried to harm me or my family, then I'm going to do something to you to stop that. That is a prejudice. I don't care whether you're black or white, green or purple. If you try to harm my family, I'm going to try to stop you. That's where the racism stops. So prejudice is, again, I say that we need to learn our language. We're all prejudiced. And to some points, prejudice is good. But the fact that we are racist, are radical, that is wrong. And that's what Dr. King was trying to get over to us, is that there's no place for that in this world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but how many people understand it?
God, well, maybe hopefully with more forums like this, they will begin to understand it.
What do the schools do to teach it these days? To get it down to brass tacks, what are the churches really doing? After all, you've got many of your major white denominations that are fussing and griping about the gay problem.
Yeah.
But they're not talking about the basics.
No. Nobody's talking about basics anymore.
Well,
why should we?
Well, why shouldn't we?
Well, I agree with you, but I think a lot of people, I don't know. I don't think they go to church to find out what they're supposed to do. I think they go to church out of duty.
I think that's generally true, particularly of a lot of people.
Out of tradition, out of habit. And that's why we got a lot of what we got going on. If I don't know why I go to church, then how can I tell you, my son, why you should go?
Well, and by the same token, if you tell them to go and make them go and you don't go yourself,
Good point.
how you going to?
You can't reiterate it. And so therefore then we go back to the school thing. Even though my mom, I told you mom only had sixth grade education. Even though mom had very little education, mom did everything she could to impress upon us education, even in the way she acted. Okay? Mom would carry herself in such a way that people didn't know she didn't have but a little bit of education. All right? And there's pictures after I went to the military of my mom being honored for something in Frankfurt, and I'm embarrassed. I don't even know what it was. My brothers and sisters could tell you because I was gone. But if I don't have an education, then I'm not going to think education's that important. So therefore, you know, the law says my kid has to go to school till he's 16. Okay, so what? Get out here and go to school. I don't know what he's learning in high school. I don't know what he's learning in elementary school. I can't help him with his homework. Okay, so the problem perpetuates itself. Then we got laws, okay, that the laws go one way and then they go another. The pendulum theory. We either swing too far this way or we swing too far this way. We never get to the middle, okay?
That's history.
Yeah.
That
So
is
it's
definitely history.
So it's a combination of everything. But it starts with home.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
It starts with home.
It's exactly where it starts.
And where it goes from there.
But on the other hand, getting back to your mother,
Mm-hmm.
had she had education, she couldn't have done any better job than she did without the education.
No, Mom did the best she could for what she knew.
Well, but she couldn't have done any better if she'd had had been a college graduate or had a master's degree.
No, not then. Not in her time period. She couldn't. The best she could hope for was being a school teacher, maybe.
Well, I don't think, what I'm really trying to say is that I don't think that regardless of how much education you have, you can teach the things that your children need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to realize what you're doing and that they're your responsibility, and you've got to teach them and teach them that they've got to respect people and
Yes.
so forth and so on. And that's why I say I don't think it had made any difference how much education your mother had.
No, because she did do that. She did that.
Well, and that's the most.
So in that case, she had a PhD.
That's the most important thing.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, we're about to run out of time here. I really appreciate your being here. You're very knowledgeable. You express yourself well, and you've got some excellent ideas. Now, I guess one reason I say that you've got some excellent ideas, we seem to agree on a lot of things.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
So, of course, when you get somebody that agrees with you, you think you've got that they've got excellent ideas. But on the other hand, I think it'd be better if we had a lot more people that had the ideas that we have discussed here. Again, I thank you, and it's been my pleasure of meeting you, and I hope we encounter each other some more.
Well, thank you for having me. And at any time I can be here or anywhere, just ask me.
Thank you.